Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abassi. I am a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I wanted to update you on my stroke specialist appointment and round it out with a little reminder of how important it is to make good use of our suffering. No, seriously, it's really been beneficial to me to use what I'm experiencing to help other survivors, other alcoholics, and I wanted to be super focused on that today because I always tend to be a little depressed, a little feeling of hopelessness after a doctor's appointment, no matter what happened at the doctor's appointment. That seems to be where my mindset goes. And I realized today, I think it might be correlated with the fact that I never feel good physically the day after a doctor's appointment. And so I think that might be like my mental connection to my physical well-being. You know what I mean? So that's an interesting thought today. It makes it feel not so bad when I understand why that might be happening every time I go to the doctor. So we may have had a mini little breakthrough today as far as why that happens. And what I've been doing today, not only is focusing on that, but also I've been doing the things that make me happy today, mainly crafts. And I took a nap. And I wanted to show off my latest craft because it's super cool. And what I did was when I take my dogs for a walk, I practice one of my exercises, my vestibular therapy exercises, which is scanning. And so I pick up rocks that I think are, I don't know, a good rock, whether it be just the shape of it, the color of it, the size of it. So I collect rocks while I go on walks with my dogs. And what I did was I'd seen a couple times this craft where you take a bowl. I think I just talked about it recently, but I can't remember anything. So you take a bowl and then you line the inside of the bowl with rocks and super glue the rocks together, not to the bowl, but to each other. I think I remember saying this yesterday. And then you remove the bowl and then the rocks are in the shape of the bowl. So I completed my first rock bowl. And there it is. If you're looking on YouTube or on Spotify, you can see that it's like magic. The rocks are in the shape of a bowl. So I'm pretty proud of that. And I'm going to keep making them. And they will definitely be for sale on my upcycling site that I'm putting together. So, and then I finish it with, at first I finished it with a acrylic clear coat, but I felt that it might do better if I finish it with a glossy Mod Podge. So that's what we've got going on. I actually dreamed about this bowl and that it fell apart. So, but there it is, nice and put together. So I'm pretty proud of that. That's a new craft of mine. And I'm working on another craft today as well. We'll see how it goes before I show it off. So doing things that make me happy, and that has been made for a good day. Additionally, big news is my husband and I have decided to renounce our veganism. So for no other reason than when Thanksgiving time comes around, I want to have a good Thanksgiving dinner. And when we went to see the stroke specialist, we talked a little bit about eating, and she praised our plant-based diet and said, really, the only difference is we recommend Mediterranean diet, and the only difference would be that you would add fish to your diet, which is not necessary. So I don't know. I think we were planning on getting rid of it, switching back over, allowing ourselves to eat meat soon. So we thought, why don't we just do it? It doesn't mean that we can't keep eating plant-based food. It just means that when we want to have some fish or something, a burger or whatever, it's fine to do it. I think one of the things about restricting ourselves to a plant-based diet was that if we completely restrict and say, no, we're not eating anything, any animal products, it makes it more difficult to eat, to order out, right? To order out things that are unhealthy. It's really difficult to order vegan food. It's possible, of course, we've done it, but it's difficult. So we had gotten into this habit of ordering out for quite some time before we decided to eat a plant-based diet. And I think we were eating a lot less healthy. So the plant-based diet has been really, really educational for me. And I knew I wasn't going to do it forever. It was something that I wanted to try, and I love it. I absolutely love eating a plant-based diet. I really do. Couple things that I miss are my natural vanilla Breyers ice cream, which I'm looking forward to getting some of that this weekend, and fish. I'm looking forward to some crab legs, so I might order that tonight. We'll see. So that's big news on our front. So let me update you on what happened at my medical appointment. So we drove into DC, and the drive wasn't too bad, actually. I rode, of course. I don't drive anymore, but for someone like me with control issues, it is challenging to close my eyes with riding in a car with anybody. But I have been practicing it for a year now, and I'm getting more comfortable doing it, especially with my husband. He's a very calm driver. Well, the movement of the car is calm. I don't know. He seems kind of like an angry, angry driver. But when we got to DC, I kept trying to open my eyes, and because it's just hard, when you're imagine being in DC with all that traffic and you're keeping your eyes closed. You can't look at anything. And so that was difficult, but I did it, kind of. So when we arrived at the facility, I think we were pleasantly surprised how easy it was to get to the facility itself. And once we got in, we were waiting in the waiting room after we checked in, and we got there really, really early, at least an hour ahead of time. And one of the, I don't know, nurse practitioners, maybe? No, not nurse practitioners. I don't know what they are. Sorry. I mean, that sounds bad. One of the assistant people under the doctor, who brings you in and gets you weighed and everything. She came out to the waiting room and apologized to us for not being able to take us in early. And I was like, oh my gosh, you did not have to do that. We came early just because we didn't, it's kind of like showing up at an airport. Like, we always show up early at an airport too. So we just wanted to get here early. We were by no means expecting to be taken in early. So that was the beginning of just a wonderful experience. The people there were so nice. Again, it's or I don't know if I said it yet, but it's MedStar, and it was at Lafayette Plaza, and it was on 21st Street. But the woman, and I'm gonna say her name in case anybody runs across her, her name was Ebony, and she was the absolute greatest informer and kind and caring um person in a doctor's office that I've ever come across. So it made a really stressful day with a lot of nervous energy so much easier to handle. We didn't have that anticipation of like sitting in the waiting room and not knowing when we're going to be taken back and stuff like that. It was so nice. So once we went back, same experience with the stroke specialist. She was just so present. You know, she was listening, very attentive. And so I spent the first part of the appointment talking about my experience and my journey, my symptoms. She was reviewing my files, reviewing my MRIs, and one thing that she did, there was a lot of validation that happened. Okay. So she did say that she looked at the stroke that I had in my left hemisphere, left upper hemisphere. And she said that it was small, but it affected multiple layers, whatever that is. I know that they have to scroll through different snapshots, which I think are layers of the brain. And she could see it in multiple layers. She said it's not surprising that I have persistent language and memory challenges because of what she sees. So that was the first time I had that sort of direct validation for what was seen in my MRIs to what I experience on a daily basis, challenged to remember words. So or remember what I'm saying, really. You guys have heard me on my bad days where I start talking and I'm like, I can't finish a sentence. So it just was comforting, I think, to hear somebody say that what I'm seeing, yes, makes sense that you are challenged with your language and your memory. So that was good. I mean, of course, it's not going to go away, but it's validation, right? So, I told her about my immediate decline that I had, my really bad decline that I had in June of last year. And when I explained to her what happened, because I had been going back to work for 2 years, and then it really did feel like there was this sudden and extreme decline in my ability to withstand movement. My migraines just became unbearable. I couldn't even use my eyes at all. And so, and I never have improved since then. I've talked to you guys about that. So she suspects that I had another stroke, interestingly. You all know, I believe, that I had gone back to get an MRI in 2023 last year because I suspected that I had another stroke because it was just such a huge difference from what I had been experiencing the previous 2 years. I did deal with the lack of tolerance for movement, and I did have headaches, but it just got so much worse. So she at the appointment could not immediately see another stroke. She after my appointment said that she was going to do some additional homework to take a closer look at my MRIs. I brought 4 MRIs, and she is going to see if there was a second stroke, if she can pinpoint where it was or that it really did happen. So it is a little nerve-wracking to think about that may have happened, because that was my fear, that I was going to have another one. Until she actually confirms that she sees one, I'm not going to be fearful that I'm just, continuously having strokes or anything like that. So I'm really glad that she's being thorough. I think that's where the gratitude is. So we did discuss my family history with AFib. And she then referred me to a cardiologist to have a heart monitor implanted. I'm not exactly thrilled about getting something implanted, but I trust that she wouldn't just suggest to throw something inside me if it wasn't necessarily an understanding what happened, because it's never been the reason I had a stroke had never been pinpointed. And she is, of course, very, very focused on making sure I don't have another one. So we talked a lot about that, about what are the steps I can take to make sure that I don't have another one. And I will, I think, touch on a few of those. She gave me like seven focal points to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, and so that I can avoid having another stroke. And I'll get into that. It sounds like I'm doing most of them. So the AFib, I had talked to her about how my family, a lot of them have had AFib, and how I'm just on baby aspirin. And I was concerned about that I'm not on blood thinners. And she explained that, and this is another reason for the heart monitor implant, is that if I don't have AFib, it can actually cause more problems than good to be on blood thinner if I don't need to be. So that's what the purpose of all of that is. She did confirm, I asked her about vestibular therapy. I told her my experience with vestibular therapy, how I ended up going there. And she's confirmed that because of my symptoms, that vestibular therapy was the right step for me. And if I hadn't have already gone to vestibular therapy, she would have referred me to a vestibular therapist. So that is another validation that I did the right thing. And she stressed the importance of continuing my vestibular exercises to maintain my current status and prevent worsening of symptoms. She said that if, you know, she said that if you want to, kind of, well, that was the tone, check in with your vestibular therapist once a month. And, but most importantly, it's just to keep doing the exercises. She talked about vestibular exercises, which I do my vestibular exercises mostly every day, unless I feel really terrible. And I do them usually when I'm out walking with the dogs. And it's just a matter of moving my head around. It helps my neck like loosen up when I get so the symptoms cause you to kind of tighten up and not want to move your head. So I do all my exercises to make sure I keep myself loose and do moving my head around so that my neck doesn't get tight. It feels tight right now. She also asked about physical exercise, and I told her she really wanted to make sure I was doing at least 30 minutes of walking. And I told her that I'm definitely am doing that. She understood that it's difficult to exercise when you have this sort of problem. But I said, I have been walking my dogs, and I said, I just got back into yoga a couple weeks ago, and I've been pretty good at doing it about 3 times a week. Um, so she was really pleasantly surprised that I had gotten back to that. She said, I know it's probably been challenging for you to get back to that, even when it was something that you did daily before you had your stroke. So lots of just like, I mean, just lots of comforting words that were so nice to hear. So, um, let's see, was there anything else? She was talking about so the 7 things, I'm not going to remember all of them, but making sure that I'm not diabetic, I'm not. She talked about the importance of taking cholesterol medicine. And I told her that I was taking cholesterol medicine, but I went off of it in conversation with my doctor because I didn't have high cholesterol. She said that cholesterol medication post-stroke is not just to keep the numbers down on your cholesterol. It has other benefits as well. So she wants me to go back on a low dose of cholesterol medication. So that's going to happen. Um, I talked about the food Mediterranean diet. I recommend to everybody, check out the Mediterranean diet. We just happen to have cookbooks on the Mediterranean recipes as well here. So that'll be pretty easy for us to implement some of those. I can't think of what else she said, but these were some of the strategies for avoiding another stroke. So it's common for me after an appointment like this, as I said, to feel a little hopeless and depressed. And it's because I think I don't feel physically well afterward. But today is a little different only because I think I'm realizing that there is a correlation between how I feel physically and how I feel emotionally. So, coincidentally, this morning's meeting, my AA meeting, was about the impermanence of things. And if you recall, you lifetime listeners, that I did an episode on the impermanence of things once, and this was just a really great reminder today just at the right time, that only in sobriety does that happen. That the feelings that I feel today are not permanent. So even if I'm feeling maybe a little down today, a little just a little air out of my sail a little bit. I know that these feelings are temporary. So I, on a day like this, need to just keep walking forward, and eventually I will step away from that kind of sadness, step right out of it and leave it behind. I was reminded of my hope stickers. Again, you lifetime listeners know that in the beginning, when I was feeling hopeless, I had done some episodes about how important it is to reward ourselves for even the smallest accomplishments. And one of the things that I needed early on over the past year is to reward myself, congratulate myself, cheer myself on when I felt hope. So I bought some stickers, and every day that I felt hope, I would put a sticker on my mirror. And when I was riding in yesterday to the doctor's appointment, my husband was talking about buying lottery tickets. So he buys lottery tickets, not because he believes he will win, and this is what he was talking about yesterday, but because buying the lottery tickets gives him hope. And he said, people say you can't buy love, but you can buy hope. And I just thought it was such a beautiful idea, and a reminder to me of how important that feeling is, that feeling of hope, even when the odds are not in our favor. So he is just a wealth of inspiration, and he doesn't even know it. Another thing that I heard this morning in my meeting, just great reminders today about the importance of making good use of your suffering to help others. And the more that I can give, the more purpose I have today. This thought is what I love to hold on to. It's why I do the podcast, so that even on tough days, I know that by sharing my journey and what I'm learning, I'm turning my suffering into something meaningful and helpful to others. So I'm finding purpose in my pain. So as I continue to navigate this challenging time, I am reminded that everything that I'm going through has the potential to help somebody else. And my suffering is not in vain if I can use it to bring hope and healing to other people. So thank you so much for caring about my journey and listening. I'll never be able to articulate to you how meaningful it is when somebody clicks play to listen to my podcast. So thanks for joining me today on the Recovery Daily podcast, and I will talk to you tomorrow.